The lens of a television camera can be a remarkably forgiving in a Utah suburb. Kouri Richins sat under the studio lights, her posture a delicate balance of vulnerability and maternal strength. Her voice carried the slight, trembling rasp of a woman who had spent a year crying in private spaces, yet she spoke with an absolute luminous clarity. She was there to promote her self-published children's book, Kouri Richins, a beloved local businessman and father who had passed away unexpectedly in the middle of the night. On camera, Kouri was the very archetype of the resilient widow, a guiding light for her 3 young boys, channeling her private agony into a public service. The media bought it completely. Segment after segment aired across local and national networks, showcasing this young mother who had turned a domestic nightmare into a blueprint for emotional healing. She spoke warmly of Eric's presence from somewhere just beyond the veil. It was a masterclass in narrative control, a performance that weaponized the universal sympathy of Richins. Death was not a matter of a failing heart or an unpredictable biological collapse. It was a matter of chemistry, raw, lethal, and clinical. The medical examiner's report had returned with a finding that shattered the peaceful illusion of Eric's final hours. His system did not contain a therapeutic or accidental trace of medication. It contained 5 times the lethal dose of illicit fentanyl. This was not a slow drift into eternity. It was a violent chemical shutdown. The drug had been ingested orally, mixed into something Eric had consumed shortly before his breath ceased. As detectives quietly retraced the timeline of that fateful night in March 2022, the pristine image of the grieving widow began to warp. They looked past the tears and the book promotions, focusing instead on the hours mule. The illusion did not merely crack, it disintegrated with the methodical precision of a domestic ecosystem defined by profound financial rot and escalating hostility. Eric Richins had been a man of stability, a partner in a successful stone masonry business, conservative with his finances and deeply committed to his family's long-term security. Kouri, however, operated in a different financial reality. She was a real estate flipper with a voracious appetite for risk, chasing multimillion-dollar mansion to notice. He had quietly consulted a divorce attorney, changed the beneficiary of his estate to his sister, and told family members that if anything happened to him, his wife was to blame. He had already survived a mysterious, violent illness after a dinner with Kouri on Valentine's Day, an episode that left him text messaging friends that he believed his wife, a housekeeper, Carmen Lorber, a woman whose history made her vulnerable and whose connection to Kouri Richins proved catastrophic for the defense. Under intense interrogation, the facade of anonymity collapsed. Lorber admitted to authorities that Kouri had approached her not for domestic labor, but to procure something far more dangerous. Kouri had requested powerful prescription pain medication, claiming she needed it for a back injury, but her demands quickly escalated to a specific request for some of that Michael Jackson stuff, a clear solicitation for powerful intravenous sedatives or synthetic opioids. Lorber confessed to sourcing illicit street fentanyl, delivering the small, deadly pills directly into Kouri's hands on multiple occasions. The timeline was damning. One delivery occurred just days before Eric fell violently ill on Valentine's Day. The second delivery happened shortly before the night of March 3, 2022, when Kouri prepared a drink to celebrate a real estate closing. The financial pressure cooker had reached its terminal temperature. With a multi-million-dollar mansion purchase hanging in the balance and Eric preparing to sever their legal union, the motive crystallized. For months, awaiting the legal battles that would determine the rest of her life, the environment was a sterile reality of concrete, stainless steel, and fluorescent lighting that never resting among her meager personal belongings. It was a study guide for the law school admission test, an LSAT prep book that Kouri had requested, ostensibly to occupy her sharp intellect and prepare for a future career in the law. But as the officer lifted the heavy book and flipped through its pages, the uniform structure of the text was interrupted by loose, handwritten sheets of paper. It was a 6-page document, written in a cramped, urgent cursive script that ran edge to edge on the lined paper. There were no margins, no hesitations, and no corrections. It was a torrent of words hidden away from the prying eyes of guards, a document never intended to be seen by anyone inside that facility. The deputy recognized immediately that this was not legal study notes or a personal journal entry. This was an active blueprint, a circles as the walk the dog letter, was a chilling window into a mind that refused to surrender its grip on deception. The letter was addressed directly to Kouri's mother, Lisa Darden, but it was not a message of maternal comfort or familial updates. It was an explicit, highly detailed directive ordering her mother to act as a courier for a witness tampering scheme. Kouri was using her mother to reach her brother, Ronald Darden, instructing him to manufacture false testimony that would completely dismantle the state's prosecution. The letter did not request assistance. It laid out a rigid, scripted narrative that her brother was expected to memorize and deliver under oath to her defense lawyers. It was elaborate. She instructed her mother to tell Ronald that he must claim he met with Kouri Richins a year before his death. According to Kouri's written orders, Ronald was to testify that Eric had confessed to him that he routinely traveled to Mexico to purchase illegal prescription medications and street drugs. The letter explicitly stated that Ronald should tell the lawyers Eric got high every night, and that this secret drug habit was the community's best-kept secret. Kouri wrote out the exact sentences she needed her brother to say, weaving a fictional history of addiction that directly countered the medical examiner's findings. She wrote, "The connection has to be made. Eric got fentanyl from Mexico. That is how this needs to read." The urgency in her handwriting was palpable, the strokes of the pen growing heavier as she pressed her family to execute the plan. "Bring me home," she pleaded through the ink, a desperate command wrapped in a legal conspiracy. But the most damning aspect of the letter lay in its operational security instructions. Kouri was acutely aware that she was operating under total surveillance, and she knew that if her plans were discovered, they would seal her conviction. To prevent the authorities hide the evidence before taking any action. The letter can commit the strategy to memory, and to do so quietly before you walk the dog. This phrase was a clear directive to execute the criminal choreography outside the home, away from potential recording devices or smart home technology that might capture the conversation. It was a calculated attempt to establish an off-the-grid communication channel, transforming a simple domestic chore into a cover for a major felony. When authorities analyzed the walk the dog letter, they did not just find evidence of witness tampering, they found a profound psychological profile of an unrepentant narcissist. Her psychological reflex when faced with the absolute collapse of her life was not contrition, fear, or withdrawal. It was to write another book. She could not stop creating fiction to manipulate creativity. She claimed to her attorneys and authorities that the massive, highly specific witness tampering document was not a criminal instruction manual at all. Instead, she argued with a straight face that it was merely a draft of a fictional novel she was writing while in her cell. She claimed the narrative about a man sourcing drugs from Mexico and a family conspiring to hide the truth was a creative writing exercise about a Mexican prison, an artistic endeavor that had been completely misunderstood by the heavy-handed state. It was an explanation that insulted the intelligence of everyone in the room. The letter did not contain character names or literary flourishes. It contained her brother's actual name, her mother's specific routine, and direct references to her current legal defense team. The author who had tried to capitalize on her husband's death was now trying to write her way out of a murder charge by calling her conspiracy a piece of literature. The walk the dog letter did not save Kouri Richins. It became the heavy iron key that locked her away permanently. When the case proceeded into the critical pre-trial and courtroom phases, the prosecution did not have to rely solely on circumstantial financial records or the testimony of a compromised housekeeper. They had Kouri's own voice, captured in black ink on lined paper, stripping away any lingering doubt about her innocence. During the proceedings, the lead investigator, Detective Jeff O'Driscoll, took the stand. The courtroom was dead silent as he held the copies of the intercepted Jailhouse letter. With a calm, clinical delivery, O'Driscoll read her desperate, manipulative words aloud to the judge and the record. Every instruction to lie, every scripted line about Mexico, and the infamous command to walk the dog echoed through the speakers of the courtroom. The defense's narrative of a targeted, grieving mother was obliterated in a matter of minutes. The jury and the court did not see a victim of tragic circumstances or an innocent woman caught in a bureaucratic nightmare. They saw a calculated director, caught red-handed in the middle of a production, trying to script her family into committing perjury to save her from the consequences of a lethal dose of fentanyl. The letter effectively neutralized her defense team's ability to argue that Eric's death was an accidental overdose or a self-inflicted tragedy, because Kouri had already tried to manufacture that exact defense through illicit means. Her own words convicted her long before a final verdict could even be stamped on the paperwork. There is a terrible, lingering irony in the fate of Kouri Richins. She built her public persona on the power of storytelling to deceive the public. Her obsession with narrative design became the exact instrument of her undoing. In the quiet isolation of her cell, unable to stop the internal engine of fabrication, she wrote the one story that the state needed to ensure she would never walk free again. She tried to rewrite a murder, and in doing so, she authored her own life sentence, leaving behind a legacy defined not by the grief she profiled on television, but by the cold, desperate ink of a letter hidden inside a textbook.